Yeah, I think you said it so well that in any communication, you need to understand the nuance. People need to understand the intentions going in, and there's so much more than just, oh, these are the facts. And those are, I mean, those are basic agreements that we have when we have this conversation. I trust your intentions are good, and hopefully likewise mine, and we can agree on certain terms and talk in civil discourse. And that's like any relationship. That's great relationship advice is, as long as you trust each other's intentions going in, there's going to be miscommunications because language is flawed. Things are
Mhm.
difficult. Tone is difficult to decipher. Um, and I think that's part of the difficulty is where we're at now is I think a lot of people are frustrated on both sides. It starts kind of ping ponging back and forth between polar extremes. There's all sorts of gotchas here and there. Um, and you start to look at it and there's almost this escalation every single time of no one can look at just this is what's happening objectively. This is some of the complications here. This is what this guy said on this side. This is what this guy said on that side. Um, People start to pick teams and sometimes they don't even know why.
Mhm.
And so with all these political escalations, it's almost like they keep trying to one up each other or feel the need to because, well, hey, this side got away with it. Well, you're going after our guy for this, but your guy is doing the same thing and no one cares about that. There's nothing in the news cycle about that. And so it's unfortunate that to feel like people need to compete, um, it keeps drawing us farther and farther apart. And again, a lot of people don't even really know why. They don't even know why this is our guy, why I'm on this side of the fence. Um, and so I think that's the unfortunate part is it does slowly start to set a precedent of, oh, it's okay to go after people for this. It's okay to even if there's not necessarily a crime, or we don't clearly know what the crime is yet, we can kind of go in search of a crime. And at least if we get that in the news cycle, our side will win points. Uh,
Exactly.
and that's the
Exactly.
unfortunate thing because the only winner there is the news,
I know.
corporate
A-
news there.
And one thing that I've said in the past is the fact that the news depends on our outrage to make money, right?
Mhm.
Unfortunately, that's the monetization plan for the news. And so anything that garners the outrage is the thing that sells. And unfortunately, even for those of us who think the news is biased, the fact that we share those biased articles are contributing to the revenue that the articles are making. So if, let's say, CNN or MSNBC posts something and then we pick it up because we think it's biased and we share it with millions of people on our social media platforms, inadvertently, we have contributed to MSNBC or CNN or Fox News or any other place making money off of
Yeah.
our outrage, even though we don't agree maybe with what they're saying. Right.
Mhm.
And so for them, it works either way, whether it outrages, their opponents or whether it makes people happy, they don't care because they end up making more money with the exposure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the things that's tough is it's not even necessarily some grand conspiracy of, oh, people get into this and they're trying to manipulate, they're trying to leave out details. One of the things I think I've started to see is that one, it's slowly dying, and so they're in survival mode. Just the model of monetizing that, and so they're constantly trying to get anything out there they can to get clicks,
Yep.
because that's the model that they have, and they're unfortunately stuck with. But it's not even necessarily it's not necessarily like malicious. There's not necessarily even so much intent, maybe higher up, but it's more just the way the system is set up as a whole, which is unfortunate because what you have are corporations. They're beholden to their shareholders. And then they hire people who are journalists. But journalists nowadays aren't like they were in the past.
Mm-hmm.
They're usually just really good writers. But being a good writer doesn't necessarily make you a good educator, a good researcher, a good, well, mostly those two. Um, and so then they hire these people, and those people, I mean, to them, they're just doing a job 8 to 5. They're making a living, and they're covering stories that one they have not a whole lot of time to cover because the industry is just looking for them to pump out so many articles,
I know.
not necessarily quality ones because people aren't going to read those ones necessarily in mass. um, and so really looking at like trying to shift that system is something that's really difficult.
It is, seriously, it is really difficult. We literally are in an economy that is run on attention, right?
Mm-hmm.
And everybody's seeking that attention, and there's so many eyeballs and so many things they can be reading at a given time. And I just like you said, I don't know the answer to that, but I feel like there needs to be some kind of economic shift for news, such that you are not beholden to just getting the eyeballs at any cost, right?
Yeah.
That there has to be some other foundation that makes it, workable, that makes it viable economically, without, giving complete, um, removing all the standards just so you can get more
Yeah.
clicks, right? And unfortunately, that's what it has become. It's like the news is the tabloid now, and the most extreme, takes are the things that get the most attention. And it's unfortunate, but that's what is happening, and it's causing more and more polarization in the country. And even things that, I'm an immigrant, and I came here about 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And looking back 20 years, like the acceleration of the deterioration of our social order is fascinating to me, because back in the day when I was here, the main difference between the two parties was this idea that we were all looking for the same goal. It's just that we had different approaches to solving the
Yeah.
problems in front of us. But now it's like, are we even looking at the same thing? It
Mm-hmm.
seems like one party is looking to completely destabilize and completely uproot the country, and then it looks like one side is completely, dug in and unwilling to change anything or look at anything in any different way. And that's the
Yeah.
narrative. It's like we're not working towards the same goal any longer. And if we're not doing that, then we are completely um, we're completely placing ourselves in a position where we can't agree on anything enough to make the difference that we need to make in order to move our country forward. And it is just sad that we're doing that and destroying ourselves while our enemies are, more united than ever.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my biggest fear.